Hello and welcome. We're doing another live one. We're giving it a different try. So let's see. I just realized that we had the wrong title card when we came up, so we're still learning. So thank you all for bearing with us. I'm Kilian Englert, and joining me as usual today is Ryan O'Boyle. How's it going, Ryan?
Hey, Kilian. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you again. So, for the audience out there, we're not talking about CD Projekt Red again. We're talking about supply chain attacks and really just the new reality that we're facing dealing with these. The reason that we wanted to bring it up is because as security professionals, Ryan and I, we talk with customers all the time, and we've been advocating for this idea of just living with a breach. We're living with the concept that we're already breached. And I feel like with the SolarWinds attack at the end of last year, this has really brought this into view for a lot of organizations. Now they're kind of really coming around to this mindset. And to reinforce that, just earlier this week, there was another supply chain attack targeting mostly French organizations, again, suspected from the Russians again this time. Brian, why do you think supply chain attacks are so prevalent, or we're hearing about them so much?
I think a couple things. From the vendor perspective, a lot of organizations are moving towards things like live updates,
Right.
cloud-hosted platforms. It makes life a lot easier to push updates out and have quick updates, occurring pretty, frequently.
Yeah.
But it also makes it a little bit more convenient for attackers as well.
Sure.
If they can get into the vendor side and then have their own malware pushed out, it takes an extra step out of that whole, attack story. They
Right.
don't have to worry about phishing anymore. They get their dropper already put in.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And once they're inside, of course, they can do all of the things that we typically see, map out the network, do some recon, escalate privileges, presumably, unless they're using a service account that has elevated rights, eventually find the data and steal it. So, like you said, it just takes that one extra step out of the process potentially. The other thing that I wanted to bring up, too, that I thought was really interesting is some new research that we just were reading about earlier, I think this week or a day or two ago, about a different way to compromise that supply chain. A security researcher, and we'll link to the article, basically was able to poison some package repositories online. He did some research about organizations and what the public names of some of these packages were, and then published similarly named, or actually the exact same name, but a higher version. So what happens is the package manager will automatically download it if it's set to download from the public repositories and build it in there. And that's noteworthy because this is taking some of the manual effort out of the supply chain attack. It's automating it so it comes right down and into the potential organizations they're looking to compromise, and built right into the software then at that point. So it's a pretty interesting development. The other thing I wanted to mention about it too, Ryan, and I want to get your take on this, is in this case for his proof of concept, and he got some bug bounties for it, so it was above board in terms of the research, but he was able to show that he was successful in this attack by basically exfiltrating a couple pieces of information. I think like the username and the machine name and like a unique identifier to show that he was inside and was on their systems. And he did this through, wait for it, DNS. So that's why I want to get your take on it, Ryan. I know we talk about this so often, and maybe the audience will be tired of hearing it, but why is this kind of the solution du jour for it in terms of data exfiltration?
In a lot of cases we're talking about the intrusion phase, but
Right.
now we're also talking about exfiltration as well. So, once they get in, it turns into a little bit more of a traditional compromise at
Sure.
that point. Getting information out via DNS is a great tactic, although a little bit more of a low and slow method. But
Right.
many organizations, they're not monitoring that traffic. It's outbound, it's open, it's allowed to go out.
Yep.
And if you have the time from the attacker's perspective, it's a very convenient way to actually get it out. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we see more of that going forward.
Absolutely. In terms of maybe what we should look for in the future, we kind of have to live with this idea that maybe some of the things in our network already are compromised, or with remote workers is coming in. What are some of the ways that organizations can defend against this, or what are your recommendations from what you're seeing in the field, Ryan?
Yeah, I think a lot of organizations need to focus their efforts on consolidating some of their monitoring capabilities internally. It's not so much just about having firewalls and IPS and IDS anymore, and blocking from the external side. We need to be able to monitor what's happening internally. A lot of really basic monitoring, like Active Directory monitoring, understanding how users are interacting with endpoints, understanding, what kind of data are they interacting with each day. Because
Right.
we kind of have to assume that they're going to get in at some point, or they already are inside.
Right.
We talk about insider threat all the time too. At this point, we're not talking about blocking externally. We already have somebody that works for us.
Right.
So it's not so much around the perimeter anymore, but more so the holistic approach of
Yeah.
the internal and working our way out.
That makes a lot of sense. And hopefully the audience, just talking about this and reading all of these stories is starting to get the sense of that holistic approach as well, too. And as I promised, we'll put the links to these different articles we referenced in the description below. Ryan, anything else you want to add before we close out for the audience today? Is there a way that they can reach out to us if they suspect they might have been compromised or want to do an investigation?
Yeah, definitely. I know. I always say it every week, but please give us a shout if you ever have an interesting alert that you're seeing, even something outside the scope of Varonis monitoring. Just want another set of eyes on it. Let us know. We'll jump on a session. We'll have a Zoom session, and our goal: get down to root cause, and then provide recommendations on next steps.
That's awesome, and that's great. And it's funny that we're live today, and we definitely like to give a shout out to Ryan and his team. They do awesome work and during these investigations. They see really cool stuff. So definitely take advantage of it. And thank you all, as usual, for watching. If you like this content, maybe consider subscribing to the channel or throw us a like or a comment on YouTube if you're watching on YouTube. Ryan, thank you for joining. This was really insightful. Thank you all for watching. We'll look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Kilian.